All right, so it's my pleasure today to present David Campbell, our presenter who's going to be presenting on What's New Revit 2021. So take it away, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. And once again, thank you everybody for joining us. Happy Thursday. So to start off, I did want to talk about Topcon Solutions, tell you a little bit about us. So Topcon Solutions is the retail arm of Topcon Positioning Systems, the world leader in construction layout, machine automation, and land surveying products. So along with selling the complete portfolio of Topcon products, Topcon Solutions is a platinum tier award-winning Autodesk value-added reseller and a platinum level Bluebeam partner with certified instructors on staff. I did also want to mention that we do have currently 13 brick and mortar locations, and we are in, our reach kind of extends to 20 different states, including Washington, DC. All right, so of course, I am your presenter today. My name is David Campbell. I am an application specialist for the Topcon Solutions store. A little bit about my background. I am a Revit certified professional for architecture, mechanical, MEP, as well as structure. I do teach Bluebeam as well, so I kind of do a little bit of everything, a little bit of BIM 360 here and there. So today, what we really wanted to focus on was what's new in Autodesk Revit 2021. Now, I did want to make a note that some of these features or the enhancements that are included in this, some of them were released in the 2020.1 or the 2020.2 release, okay? So to start off with, we have some platform improvements, and that's where we're gonna begin this presentation at. I'm going to start with the platform improvements, and we will go into discipline specific with the architecture, structure, and MEP. So getting into the platform improvements, first up we have the PDF and image linking. So this gives us the capability to link and unload images and PDFs in your project models locally and from the cloud. So we can link these up into BIM 360 as well. This is going to allow us to easily keep information updated while also not increasing your file size or embedding the image or PDF file for security or IP reasons. Now, what you guys will notice is this feature will improve your sorting. It's going to add size reporting. It's going to add multi-select for your unload, reload, kind of remove operations, and add the ability to convert your links to imports. It's also going to give you a show button that you can hit to find a PDF or image in the model. We will have, or we do have, cloud models that can be hosted on a Europe data server. So this is going to apply to your work shared cloud models using Revit Cloud Work Sharing and your non-work shared cloud models using cloud models for Revit. Now, Revit 2021 is going to enable a better experience for BIM 360 project navigation in your Revit home screen. It's now going to be easier to differentiate between your recent files and your cloud-hosted models. The list of your projects is now going to be searchable, making it easier to find your desired project. When you go to BIM 360, there's a little button, and it's going to be a little shortcut to access the project on BIM 360 directly. Also, with Revit 2021, you're going to notice that for anyone who's getting started with Revit, we now have a customized workspace. So this is really tailored to a user experience improvement that really makes multiple discipline tools feel like they're purposely built. You can create a user profile to allow Revit to provide a workspace suggestion tailored to your work discipline and your job role. Now, also in Revit 2021, what we're going to see is that you have the stripe rows parameter that's going to enable us to display alternating schedule rows in contrasting colors, making your large schedules easier to read. Now, both of these colors are going to be user selectable for each of your schedule view. When you enable the stripe rows parameter for a schedule, you also have that option to enable it on the sheets, and that parameter is going to display to show your selected row colors in those sheet views. Now, it can be saved in a schedule view template as well. So that's nice. Now, while Revit already offers multidisciplinary BIM capabilities for higher quality, coordinated designs, Revit's built-in features have been extended to better support the bridge design, okay? Now, what we're gonna see is that there's a new category filter for the infrastructure discipline that's been added. Your bridge model categories and subcategories and bridge annotation categories have also been added to help manage the display of your bridge-related elements. Now, I do want to go ahead and note that these categories have been designed to support the InfraWorks to Revit workflow. So creating new Revit model families based on these categories is not really supported yet. Annotation families are supported though. And another one, the US survey foot has also been added as a unit in Revit 2021 to better support the infrastructure design in Revit. And that's really to help enable your coordinates to match between Civil, 3D, and Revit when the survey data is being utilized in survey feet. Another big one that you're gonna see is that Dynamo for Revit 2.5, it's included in the Revit installation. What we're gonna see is that Dynamo now finds required packages in the refreshed workspace references viewer. It automatically notifies you if any of them are missing. The viewer lists the packages used in your graph along with their version and the status. Now, you'll also notice that in the package manager, the user interface, the downvote button has been removed to reduce confusion and promote positive reinforcement. And they've added, the filter icon has been changed to filter by text to improve your discoverability of those different packages. And then we also are going to see significant performance improvements that have been made, particularly for your large graphs that make changes to a Revit model. Some run times have been reduced up to, I want to say like 99%. Another Dynamo note here is that 10 new Dynamo Revit nodes have been added to support the most commonly requested conditions for geometry joining, pinning, unpinning, and hosting of your Revit elements. Another big one that I really like is enabling those view filters in the view. So Revit's going to offer us the ability to create view filters that control the visibility or your graphic display of those elements. Using the filters tab in the visibility graphics dialog box, these filters can be applied to one or more views in a Revit project. So this column has been added, the enable filter has been added to that kind of visibility graphics dialog box, and really it's just going to give us the ability to quickly turn on or turn off the overrides of a view filter without having to remove that filter from the view. You will notice that in previous versions of Revit, your tags that were assigned to components, they didn't rotate with those elements. They maintained their original orientation. Well, with Revit 2021, you can essentially control this behavior. You simply select the tag, open it for editing by clicking the Edit Family button, and enable the Rotate with Component parameter in the Properties palette. And that's just going to enable the tag to rotate with that component to which it's assigned. Void cutability can also be applied to family geometry by using your type and instance parameters. Now, we know that voids are often used in your Revit families, and in some cases, they can be the defining difference between family types. What we notice with the cuts geometry is that this enhancement will be particularly useful for your countertop families that maybe utilize different fixture inserts, or window families that utilize sills with and without drip edges. Revit's out-of-the-box hard-coded line styles are now going to be consistently named and sorted. So you'll notice the bracket line types are the default Revit line types. All others are going to be shown without the brackets. And then to lighten the Revit installer this year, most sample content is no longer installed with Revit. That Get Autodesk Content button has been added to ensure that customers who do use the sample content have quick and easy access to download it. Now we're going to get into the discipline specific. So I'm going to start with architecture. So I'm sure you guys can guess, but one of the biggest features for architecture this year, we're going to see generative design. Having a little trouble talking over myself there. Generative design is a design exploration process to quickly generate and evaluate high-performing design alternatives. Now, Many generative design tools have been hard to use because they require users to know how to code or understand the special terminology or know how genetic algorithms work. Essentially, with adding generative design into Revit, it helps us quickly generate design alternatives based on your goals, the constraints, and the inputs. Generative design provides a set of sample study types to demonstrate how this tool can be used to generate outcomes for your design challenges. You can easily run one of the predefined studies or recipes, as they call them, with generative design in Revit, such as your workspace layout or massing. Let's say you're trying to lay out a group of desks in an office, and you also want to maximize the view out the window that each of these desks get. So you can use generative design to essentially run a study. And then after that, you can explore the design alternatives to find the solution that's going to best fit your needs. Now, there are a couple other studies or recipes that are ready to be used. So these are just built into Revit. Your maximize window views, which you can use it as a sample study type with generative design to generate your alternatives to determine which best position in a room that you may have for optimal views to the outside. So just how do we want to lay it out so we can look out the window, we have a beautiful view, or maximize space inside of that room while also still maintaining that view. And then 3-box massing, which it generates alternatives for 3 adjacent buildings as simple masses to maximize your floor area while minimizing that surface area. Another big thing we're going to have for architecture is the real-time realistic views. Essentially, we want to work, or it's going to give us the capability to work in live rendered views. And essentially what it's doing is it's replacing the realistic views that was available in past releases. We are said to experience over 10 times faster performance and automatic exposure control. Now, this new mode is available in all types of views and allows direct editing of the model with rendered materials and lights. You can walk through a finished model design and modify your building with realistic lighting and materials while you work, or place the views with materials and lighting onto sheets. Now, I do want to take a note that a graphics card with at least 4 gigs of memory is recommended if you're going to try this, try to work in those views. It is going to take a lot of processing there. In Revit 2021, you may apply or slant or tilt to walls during their creation by selecting the slanted option from the new cross-section instance parameter in your constraints section of the properties palette. You can also change an existing vertical wall to a slanted wall. Now, when the slanted option is selected, the angle from vertical parameter is going to be enabled. You can use this parameter to select the inclination of the wall, which you can typically range between +90 and -90 degrees. Now, you can also use the editing grips, like the wall grips, at the top of a wall to adjust its height or angle. Now, I did want to note that windows and doors that are hosted in these slanted walls will display an additional orientation instance parameter in their constraints section of the properties palette. You may elect to have the hosted element match the angle of the wall by changing this parameter from vertical to slanted. And then you can also create slanted walls from walls that are curved or elliptical in the plan. Another big one, Autodesk Inventor 2021 has extended the AnyCAD functionality for Revit to help manufacturers in the construction industry collaborate and coordinate on BIM projects. So what we're going to see is that there's an improved interoperability between Revit and Inventor by maintaining an associative link to inserted Revit data as you work. The Revit project can be accessed from a local file or coordinated via the cloud using BIM 360, the common data environment. Now, changes during the design process are inevitable. We know this. When the Revit model changes, typically you need to update the Inventor model to suit, right, to reflect it. Because the Revit model is referenced into your Inventor assembly, any changes to the Revit project will also update inside the Inventor assembly without file translation. And into the structure. So in Revit 2021, they've given us the ability to define 3D rebar shapes by rotating the hooks at the ends of the bars and directly inputting the hook lengths for each rebar instance. Sometimes, reinforcing bar assemblies like standees are normally required for the support of top mats of reinforcing bars in thick concrete members. Standees have a 3D rebar shape, a specific shape. And essentially what we can do is create these new standards and save them into our library. And now we also have the capability to rotate those hooks as you're kind of seeing there when defining that rebar shape. So if it's included in the rebar shape definition, your rebar numbering considers that hook rotation along with the other segment length parameters. Now, you can also change those hook lengths quickly for each bar in the project by selecting the override hook lengths option in the properties palette, and then just inputting in the new length in the respective rebar shape parameter field. Now, this is going to be applicable for any rebar with hooks and requires that the hook lengths be assigned to a rebar shape parameter. So as I was saying there, when you go to create that bar, just make sure that that parameter is enabled, it's assigned to it. Now, you can also use rebar shapes with the 3D hooks inside your path reinforcement to distribute your rebar standees in your structural project. So we know that rebar couplers are used in reinforced concrete structures to typically replace normal rebar lap joints. In Revit 2021, you can now use rebar couplers to connect your tangent arc-shaped bars in circular concrete structures, such as your curved walls, any concrete tanks, tunnels, things like that. In Revit 2021, we can now add an end treatment to the end of any rebar without the need for a rebar coupler. You simply select any rebar and change the end treatment at start or end to any of the values defined in the project. Also, we can now view fabric sheets and custom fabric sheets in your 3D views as solid or unobscured. So just as before, when we go into the change visibility status for your rebar, it's the same thing for this. You're just going to go into the visibility status and the properties palette and then choose your solid, unobscured, or obscured, kind of what have you, representation, and it is going to be based off of the instance. So if you do grab one fabric sheet and you select these options, it's just for that instance. Now, the bond between steel and concrete is essential to ensure that they perform as a single entity in a loaded structure. To achieve the full bond, the surfaces need to be in contact for a calculated length called the anchorage length. In Revit 2021, you can easily specify the hook lengths for each rebar in the project without the need to duplicate the hook type and change the length for that type. This is going to be accomplished by selecting the override hook lengths option in the properties palette and then inputting the new length in the respective rebar shape parameter field. Another thing that we're going to see is that the structural precast extension formerly offered for Revit is now going to be integrated into Revit 2021. Now, in the past, we had a precast ribbon that's still be there, but what you'll notice is that they've given us a on and off button. And well, the on and off button has been replaced with that enable disable precast updates button. And what that's going to do is help us prevent the automatic recreation of your precast elements due to any changes performed on that precast, okay? Now, this integration into Revit 2021 supports multiple stages of the precast workflow, offering advanced tools to automate the process of generating your precast assemblies, shop drawings, and files for your computer-aided manufacturing machines. Also, kind of sweeping back to Dynamo, but for structure this time, the Dynamo nodes dedicated to placing your steel connections in Revit are now provided with the Revit installation as part of Dynamo for Revit. And this really means functionality previously provided by those Autodesk steel connection packages, including the nodes, the sample scripts, they will now be included or available in Dynamo for Revit without any additional setup. And really that's going to simplify our deployment, I think, quite a bit. Now, These nodes give you the functionality to drive your steel connections by your structural analysis results, which is therefore tightening the integration between your analysis and detailing phases and helping you make better design decisions when adding steel connections to the structural model. Now, another thing we're going to notice is that the structural results manager and your results exploration tools are now integrated right into Revit 2021. So it's right with the installation. These tools enable your structural engineers to explore and document your analysis results to gain insight into a structure's behavior, making appropriate design decisions, and then documenting them properly. Now, depending on the type of analysis performed, results are presented graphically as maps and diagrams on elements of the analytical model used for analysis. Our steel detailing capabilities have been extended to allow more flexibility when modifying steel elements or connections. You'll notice to change the shape of a plate, all we need to do is simply select it and press the Edit Boundary button, and then we can stretch the plate's edges to the desired location. To edit simple and complex cuts easily, you just select the desired cut using the Tab key, and then press Edit Boundary and choose from the several options to change the shape of the cut or add a radius maybe to one of its corners. You'll also notice the size of the circular openings can be adjusted in a similar fashion. You select the opening, press the Edit Boundary button, and then enter the desired diameter value. So stiffeners are an important component of a structural steel design. They are used to strengthen a steel beam or a column. We've now been given a dedicated tool for creating stiffeners in the structural connections settings dialog box. Once they're loaded into your project, it's available from the type selector. You can then insert your stiffeners on the selected steel member by selecting or specifying the insertion point. Like all Revit families, stiffeners have types. This means that you can create a library of stiffeners, and then they can be moved or copied to a different location along with the same beam or to a different one. Now, Revit users a lot of times were previously limited to inserting your steel components in your 3D views and your 2D horizontal views, such as your levels or your floor plans. With Revit 2021, this limitation has been removed. Revit users may now place steel components in 2D vertical views. So you can insert steel plates in an elevation or vertical section view. This new feature gives us the freedom to model steel components in any view, wherever you prefer to see, create, and adjust them. Now, when creating engineering drawings for steel connections, you may wish to create dimensions to the center of the plate for more accuracy. In addition to creating these edge distances for a steel plate, it's now possible to snap to its midpoint and create dimensions indicating the distance from the plate edge to its center, both vertically and horizontally. Now, for stiffeners in your connection plates along a beam, improvements have been made that enable you to dimension them from center to center with a dimension from the center line of the beam web. Because these dimensions are parametric, if you move these stiffeners, the values of the dimensions between them will update automatically. All right, let's get into the MEP. First up, we have the electrical circuit name. So in electrical settings, there's a new node called the circuit naming. The circuit naming schemes created here show up as options in the circuit naming parameter list on each panel. You can select a scheme for the project that is used for all of your panels that have their circuit naming value set to by project setting. Revit also now supports showing a single bus column in the panel schedule templates that only show a single phase. So loads on a single phase LN panel will all be connected to a single phase. With this enhancement, when selecting a distribution system to assign to a panel, Revit will check the voltage and poles assigned to the connector and filter out any distribution systems that don't match. So all the LN panels that are panel loads that are on a single phase and the phase total loads, they'll tabulate accordingly. The panel schedule will show the loads on the phase defined by what phase it is connected to on the panel it's fed from. Also, you'll notice that schedules that use the hide column for third phase option will now hide columns for all unused phases and will be applied automatically during the upgrade or during an upgrade. The option text has also been revised to reflect this new behavior. Now, after upgrading, if a model already has the circuit connected to mismatched panels, the circuit connection will be kept. Then if anyone wants to continue assigning the circuits after the upgrade, a warning message is going to display to let you know that there is a mismatch scenario. You'll also notice that your switchboards will no longer report a value for the max number 1 pole breaker parameter in your schedules and view filters, as the max number of circuits parameter is used instead. So they've replaced that. Also, there is a new family parameter in the electrical equipment part types for the switchboard. Now, another thing that we're going to see is that they've added the switchboard circuit phase selection. Prior to this enhancement, 1 and 2 pole circuits are always connected to phase A when connected to a switchboard, really making it not possible for a user to specify what phase a load is connected to. So for Revit 2021, a new switch phases command has been added when selecting a circuit in the switchboard panel schedule view. This is really going to toggle the phase to which the circuit is connected, and then loads on the switchboard bus update accordingly. Additionally, you'll notice it is now possible to modify the parameters of your spares and spaces, such as the poles and the frame size. We'll also notice a panel schedule node that's going to be listed under the sheets in the project browser. So it's going to list those panel schedules under the sheets on which they are placed, which of course improves consistency with other features of the project browser and helps users really navigate quickly to that project to get the information they need. And you'll notice since they've added that, they're also searchable within the project browser. Also, part of that 2020.2 release was making it possible to modify parameters of circuits and panels in the properties palette from within the panel schedule view, which again makes it easier and quicker to make those modifications to those components without having to switch views. Another thing, so you can see here that we are using the work sharing display to kind of compare the legacy and the new behavior. In previous versions, all directly modified elements were borrowed, so whatever was part of that system. Now it's only the directly modified element that is borrowed. So to resolve these work sharing issues, the auto heal behavior for the inline elements was disabled. Now, understanding that trade-off for having the undesirable behaviors removed versus being in control of exactly what happens, we thought was beneficial. Now, another beautiful thing we're going to see is that the Revit connector for PNID, it is run through BIM 360 Docs. So it creates a connection between Revit and the Plant 3D PNID schematic diagrams to enable pipe modeling in Revit from BIM 360 Docs. So this is going to replace the functionality previously available on BIM 360 Team. Once Revit has connected to the Plant 3D collaboration project, the PNID diagram will be available in Revit with a list of components contained within the PNID diagram. Now, you will notice that each PNID part is color-coded to ensure correct usage and positioning. Another thing we're going to see is that Revit now supports cubic feet per hour, cubic feet per minute, and liters per hour as units for pipe flow. And this, of course, addresses some requests that Autodesk has had. The import export features for MEP, your fabrication extension, is now going to be located in the standardized menu locations, and your output tools have been relocated from the add-ins tab to the contextual menu that appears upon selection of your MEP fabrication parts. So that MEP fabrication export is also going to be located under the file tab and then export. The systems analysis feature in Revit, which extends on the capabilities of Autodesk Insight, leverages location and climate data to perform whole building performance analysis, giving HVAC designers the ability to use architectural models in Revit at any level of completeness. Now, with systems analysis, designers can quickly sketch their layouts, define zones, and even attach preliminary equipment that can be further refined as more detail is added. And once those systems and the zones they serve are defined, analytical models can be generated. Now, designers can then use Revit views and schedules to validate that their systems are properly defined and connected before the analysis begins by exploring their analytical systems in the system browser. Now, this is powered by Energy Plus. The systems analysis tool comes with 2 default analysis routines, one for your annual building performance and one for calculated loads and sizing. But you can make custom routines as you need to. Now, when the analysis is completed, designers can explore the reports in graphical and tabular form. All right, and that was it. Did we have any questions? Thank you again for joining us, but yeah, do we have any questions?
If there are any questions, like I said earlier, please feel free to input those on the questions pane on the GoToWebinar control panel. At this time, David, we do not, but maybe give a few minutes here.
All right, well, if you guys do have any questions or you are interested in the customer success that we have, please just feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to us through topconsolutions.com or give us a call, and we'd be happy to help as much as we can.
Thank you for joining, everyone, and please enjoy the rest of your Thursday.